Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Let's Get It On. We've got Henry in the studio. Now, Henry is part of the duo Barbara. Henry, please introduce you and the band to our listeners.
Barbara is me and my brother John, and we're from Brighton on the south coast of England. People that don't know where Brighton is. And we've been going for 3 or 4 years, and we kind of make what we sometimes call sort of Baroque pop music, but it's also sort of, people like to say that it's sort of vintage or retro sounding pop music. And we have three brilliant musicians that join us when we're playing live on stage. And we have, up to this point, to date, we have done tours with The Divine Comedy, Haircut 100, and just a couple of weeks ago, we finished a tour supporting Paul Weller. So that's a very short story of Barbara up to today.
Well, tell me why Barbara? Why the name Barbara?
There's quite a specific reason in that we reckon that maybe the 70s is sort of the decade that our music is sort of most influenced by. And so what we wanted was some sort of word or name that evoked that era. And we decided it would be a person's name would be quite nice. And there were a couple of other names, Beryl, for example. I think we thought about Beryl. But in the end, I think we decided that Walter was another one that we thought about. But Walter, I think we thought was a bit more 1950s rather than 1970s. But Barbara seemed to evoke the 70s perfectly. You don't get too many, but I mean, I think that it's not a particularly popular name nowadays, but I would imagine if you could look at the list of the most popular baby names in 1973, I imagine Barbara would probably be quite high on the list. So that's why we went for Barbara. And it kind of fits the music, actually. I mean, people tend to say that about the name, which suggests that we got that call right, at least.
Yeah, because you are kind of Baroque balladeers, aren't you? Because the stories within your songs are just simply adorable. Listening to them, who writes most of the songs between the two of you?
Well, you know what? The songwriting duties really are shared between the two of us. There's not really, it's not as if we're not like Elton John and Bernie Taupin, sharing one person does the lyrics and one person does the tunes and the chords. It's a little bit more of a slightly more organic process. Inevitably, there are some songs where one of us will have written more than the other, and that's brought along and it's kind of finished off with the two of us together. And sometimes the songs are written, sometimes we'll start from scratch and we'll together in a room together around the piano. So there's not really a set way that it's done, but it's really the two of us together are the writers, yeah.
And being brothers, I guess you do have your fallings out, but what made you two, I mean, for an emerging band, you've done a huge amount in a short space of time, haven't you both? So where was the point that you both came together to create this band? Or have you always been singing together and performing together?
Good question. I think we've not always been performing together. So it's not as if when we were children or teenagers, we performed. That was not something we did. We were taught to play piano when we were kids, and we would have done the odd performance in groups in school and stuff. But performing together in front of other people, that's not really something we did until about 5 years ago, really. And about 5 years ago, I think it dawned on both of us that the thing we love more than anything else is music. And seeing that, we are quite close, we get on well, we have similar tastes in music, and I think neither of us had been in bands. It wasn't the kind of thing we just didn't do that when we were growing up. So I think we thought we've got some nice songs. Let's see what will happen if we just take this a little bit more seriously and kind of go for it a bit. And that's where the story of Barbara really begins. But that's only it's relatively recently in our lives. We don't have this long history of boldly getting up as 8-year-olds and singing harmonies together or anything.
So it kind of is a happy accident, really. You come together.
Yeah.
You don't live together, do you? Do you live together?
We don't live together. I think that would be too much. I think I would draw the line at living together, considering how much time we spend sitting together and writing songs or rehearsing with the others. So it's important to have a bit of space, but we do spend a hell of a lot of time with each other. And if we weren't as close as we are, it would be difficult to do what we do, right? Because, it does, as I've found, particularly when we've done these tours, you know, it really helps to have people in the group with you that you get on with.
Yeah.
So we're quite lucky in that sense.
So we're going to listen to the first song. Would
Okay.
you like to introduce it and just tell us the inspiration behind it? This is the first one of your new EP, which is out on the 22nd of May, and it's called Happy Days. So
Yeah.
we're going to listen to the first song, but Henry, tell us about this first song.
Okay, so thank you for mentioning the EP. It is called Happy Days, and it's the second Barbara EP. The first track on it is called Mein Fraulein, and I think people that have listened to lots of Barbara music would say that Mein Fraulein is kind of peak Barbara. It's Barbara. It's us at our most sort of wacky and wild. In that, as you people will see when they listen, it's a number of different sort of styles. We jump from style to style. We jump from section to section, and not all the Barbara songs are like this, but this is the one where we've really kind of gone for it, and we've left all the, what's the phrase I'm looking for? We've kind of thrown everything at the wall with this one.
It's kind of a Beatles Yellow Submarine, but in Barbara style, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's a very nice comparison. Absolutely, and lyrically, and John kind of is really responsible for the lyrics here, but it's like a number of our songs. It's a story in a song, so it's a story of it's a sort of European love story, a quirky love story with sort of surprises and twists and turns around every corner. Because we love songs with stories. They were always our favourite songwriters were people like Ray Davies and the Beatles when they're writing songs with characters in, Eleanor Rigby and all that kind of thing. So this is Mein Fraulein.
Sleeping in lane, waking to a sweet smelling Gauloise haze. Breakfast in bed, offers her a glass of German wine. I'm sorry, my dear, it's a little early for me. Apologies, I'm knocking on Bavarian time. In the evening, she taught him to dance. Do the Charleston, a funny little turn for a funny romance. Funny little dancing man. Tired out, they traipse back to bed. With a nightcap, watching the sun go down overhead. Watching the sun go down. 5 nights
Henry, for an emerging band, the tour with Paul Weller, is that the highlight so far for you guys? And how did that come about?
It is the highlight, really, yes, because the other two support tours, which I can mention in a bit, were fantastic, and they were, you know, I've got very, very fond memories of them. But the Paul Weller tour just felt, I don't know. I mean, Paul, it really did feel. I mean, it was just. We're both really big Paul Weller fans as well, so it was kind of really, really surreal to be to hear that he wanted us to open for him, and then being there on the first couple of days and being there, he's doing the sound check and you're standing off to the side of the stage, and then he kind of comes up to you and wants to shake your hand, and he's a top bloke and wants to chat about music and stuff. So, but the way it came about was it wasn't at all some great music industry contact we've got. It was just a really good friend of ours who's actually liked Barbara's music since kind of day one, really, since we were nothing at all. I can't remember exactly how we met him, but he is in the sort of extended Paul Weller group family, if you like. And he said to us a number of times over the years, I think Paul might quite like some of this stuff. I'll try to get it to him, see what he thinks. And we could never take it that seriously, because the prospect of someone as big as Paul Weller listening to our music, we couldn't quite believe that would ever be a thing. But then in December last year, Mark, this lovely bloke who I'm talking about, rung me up out of the blue and said, "What are you doing in April next year?" And I didn't really clock what it was about, and I just said, "No, I don't think I've got plans." And he said, "How do you feel about touring with Paul Weller? He's heard some of your music and he wants you to come and do all the supports on his April tour." So that was I'll never forget that phone call. And then there were 4 months to go before it happened, and those 4 months passed in no time at all. And then we did it, and it was kind of an absolute whirlwind. And it seemed to go, just seemed to go so quickly, and it's such an intense, exciting experience. Being you're in a different city each day, and every day there's 2,000 people there to watch you play. And for us, at the level we're at, that's still a real novel, new, wonderful thing. But
you weren't daunted then, no?
You know what? People have asked me this. Surprisingly not, actually. I think you're nervous on the first couple, but what happens is by number 6 and 7, I guess like with anything in life, you do it regularly, and you're just not as nervous, and you're just kind of keen to get on there and do it because it's such fun. So yeah, I mean, and I was saying to someone the other day that not only is it brilliant fun, but also it's quite inspiring as well, because you're there with all these thousands of people who have come to watch Paul Weller, and you kind of think, oh, well, imagine how fantastic this would be if we could one day get to these kind of levels. So it's a very inspiring thing to be a part of as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the second song that's on the album, Enduring Love. So there must be the lyrics for this one too.
There is. This is, well, I said about stories in songs, and this is a story in a song, or rather it's a song about a story, in that this is a song which is written, this is directly inspired by a novel that I read during lockdown, which is called Enduring Love. It's an Ian McEwan novel. And I read it in over a month or whatever, in the first lockdown when I wasn't up to very much. And I thought it was, I don't know if you know it or know Ian McEwan. I mean, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic story, so riveting. A real page turner, as people say about their favourite books. And I thought that it might be nice to try and fit the story, or bits and pieces of the story, into a kind of Burt Bacharach style song. And that's what Enduring Love is all about.
Now, for somebody so young, I'm amazed you know who Burt Bacharach is. But if you love music, of course you would know who he is.
Well, he's kind of the godfather of love songs, really, isn't he? So yes, I know he's a great influence on Barbara, and particularly in this track, particularly the halfway through there's kind of a trumpet. I think it's a trumpet solo, and that I remember really wanting that to sound like the kind of horn parts that would be in the Bacharach music. So watch out for that.
Right, let's have a listen to Enduring Love by Barbara.
You know she is a lecturer in something or other. Don't you know I am a writer? One thing led to another. We were going okay till that day in the summer. These days I often stop to think of it. These days still I can clearly picture it. I wouldn't mind if the narrator would tap me on the shoulder to say, watch out, hold on, it won't be long till it's happening to you, and there's nothing you can do. And jury, love is gonna catch you in a motor car. And jury, love is gonna come no matter where you are. Ooh, he's hanging over your head in a field. Then he falls, and you feel like you need that curing, alluring, enduring love. I wouldn't mind if the narrator would tap me on the shoulder to say, watch out, hold on, it won't be long till it's happening to you, and there's nothing you can do. And jury, love is gonna catch you in a motor car. And jury, love is gonna come no matter where you are. Ooh, he's hanging over your head in a field. Then he falls, and you feel like you need that curing, alluring, enduring love. He's hanging over your head in a field. Then he falls, and you feel like you need that curing, alluring, enduring love. Enduring love. Enduring love. Whoa.
So coming back to you two, do you both have day jobs, or are you full-time musicians at the moment?
We do have day jobs, yes. It's quite, you have to, in my experience, having done this for 3 years now, you have to, I think you have to be at quite a high level actually to be able to give up. The way that the kind of the sort of economy of it works, which is not a particularly interesting thing to talk about, but it's quite an expensive thing to keep on the road, you know, literally and figuratively, if that's the right phrase, having a band. So we certainly do have day jobs, and they're not particularly exciting day jobs, but they allow us to, they give us enough time to be able to do this, which is what we really, really love. Of course, I suppose the dream is to be able to just do this full time, but equally, I think because we're a little bit, I was about to say we're older than we were, but that's the same for everyone in every moment ever, isn't it? So it's not a particularly interesting thing to say. But we're slightly older, and therefore we are more philosophical about it. Actually, we do try to take it day by day and experience by experience, because we're so conscious of how difficult it can be for bands to really kind of make it. And so, whilst simultaneously, we're very ambitious about it, but equally, we do try to. It's very important, particularly with something like the Paul Weller shows. I remember saying a couple of times to the band, we will definitely. This is an amazing thing we're doing here, and who knows what will happen with the band in the long run. But we'll talk about this in decades to come. So enjoy, really enjoy it.
Enjoy the moment. What did your parents think of the two of you going off with Paul Weller all over the country?
As you might guess, they are the biggest fans of Barbara. So when we get to do these big shows supporting artists like Paul Weller, we're often given some guest list spots. We can invite people, and Lindsay and Tony, actually, who the EP is dedicated to. If people want to get the EP, it says for Lindsay and Tony, and that's our mum and dad, and they are very often the top two names on the guest list, because they're both they both love music. Dad was a big Jam fan in the 1970s and 80s, so they're quite thrilled by it. Actually, they love it. And last year the support tour we did was with Haircut 100, so that's very much my mum's era, kind of mid-80s pop, and so they kind of doubly enjoy it, because they get to do their sons playing to these big crowds, but equally they kind of get to go and see some of their favourite artists from back in the day. So it does make them very happy, which is
they're 100% behind you.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe, I don't know. I think it's one of those things. The better it goes for us, perhaps the more they feel that it's a wise move for us. If you'd have asked them those kind of questions 3 or 4 years ago, perhaps they'd have given slightly different answers. But I think now they see how much we enjoy it, and we've had a little bit of success with some of these things we're doing. So I think they're well and truly behind us. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to listen to another song now. This is number 3. So again, Henry, if you don't mind telling our listeners, just tell us what the inspiration is behind track 3.
Okay, A Pretty Straight Guy. What I quite like about, I kind of mentioned it with Fraulein. We've got a number of different influences and different kind of genres. It's often kind of, put into one track together. With Pretty Straight Guy, though, this is our attempt, I would say, at doing something the closest we come to a disco track. Right. So the way the drums are, this is a kind of the song that people are most likely to kind of dance to at the gigs. It's faster, and it's got a bit more sort of it's our attempt at writing a kind of disco song. Lyrically, it's a little bit political, but equally, I never ever wanted to be overtly, kind of explicitly political in lyrics, because I think I kind of think that's been done, and also when bands do that a bit much, it can come across, I don't know, a bit preachy. So I'm slightly wary of kind of, I certainly don't want our songs to have kind of profound. I don't want us to attempt to be saying profound things about politics. So it's slightly more of a sort of wry, cheeky political song, I suppose. But most importantly, it's a song to try and get people dancing. It's for the discos.
Okay, well, hang on to your seats then, because you might be up on your feet dancing to this one. Let's have a listen to Pretty Straight Guy. We'll be back in just a moment with lots more questions for Henry.
There's a shady looking fella on the television mocking as a mockingbird. And there's a certain type of citizen who pities him and hanging on his every word. They were only looking out for common people, please. 'Cause they told me, they showed me, he's just a pretty straight guy, living a pretty straight life. Whatever does a gentleman do, he does mix of queen and country. He's just a pretty straight guy, living a pretty straight life. Whatever does a gentleman do, and he does what he likes. Use no pseudonym. There's nothing you can think of will embarrass him. And Lord only knows he's up to something. Say the Lord only knows. Lord only knows he's up to something. Say the Lord only knows. It's on the shoulder. Red light, all is on your back. He's just a pretty straight guy, living a pretty straight life. Whatever does a gentleman do, he does what he likes. Use no pseudonym. There's nothing you can think of will embarrass him. And Lord only knows he's up to something. Say the Lord only knows. Lord only knows he's up to something. Say the Lord only
So, Henry, the new EP is called Happy Days.
Mm.
Did you have a problem trying to find a name for your EP, or is Happy Days just literally what you guys are? You're just enjoying these happy days of making memories, making music, making people enjoy what you do?
I think that you there have encapsulated the reason for the decision on the name better than I've expressed it. Actually, that's brilliantly. That works brilliantly. That's exactly why we've gone for the title here. Yeah, I mean, on the first. So this is the second EP. The first EP, which we called Mildly Entertaining, that had a bit more of a story to it, and that was quite a funny. I mean, I remember John had put some video up on YouTube, and someone had put as a comment, "It's just mildly entertaining," and we found it just quite a funny thing. It was just it was quite a strange thing that someone had, because it was sort of, I don't know, it was quite an odd thing to put in a comment. So we chose that slightly ironically, I suppose, as the title of the first EP. But this one, it's slightly more straightforward. Yeah, I love it when people say that Barbara's music makes them happy, because pop music doesn't always do that. I mean, very often pop music is about sort of heartbreak, or I mean, it's not always the case, but whereas with Barbara, yes, there is a sort of happiness there, which I suppose we're kind of quite proud of that. I mean, that's kind of something that I don't think is something we should be ashamed of whatsoever. I've even got an exclamation mark. I even wanted to have an exclamation mark after Happy Days in the title, really kind of to make it clear.
To reinforce that.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got day jobs, you two, as well. What do your work colleagues, do they know that you're in the band, Barbara? And do you ever get any comments?
Sometimes, yeah. I don't like to talk about it loads, but if I'm off, I mean, if I've got to go off for 2 weeks or whatever, I'm not, I will say what I'm doing. And sometimes when they're music fans, they're quite impressed. I mean, because it's, it's the Paul Weller tour in particular. That's quite a cool thing to have done, I suppose. So yes, I'm a teacher, I'm a tutor, so I teach, I'm a private tutor, so it tends to be the parents of the people that I teach, because they are very often from the generation of these kind of bands that we've been playing shows with. So sometimes when they're music fans, they're really interested and they've got lots of questions about it. So John, you'd have to ask John about that. John's a bit more outgoing than me, so John's probably more likely to be slightly to making sure everyone knows where he's off to if he's about to go and do it.
Because you come across as two very unassuming guys that are just having this wonderful time writing music and writing wonderful music and wonderful lyrics together, and you're amazed at the success that you've had, and equally is like, well, we're just going to go with the flow.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how we are, really. Yeah. And I think the fact that we're a little bit, we're kind of in our late 20s, it does, I don't know. I mean, we kind of, lots of people trying to make it as sort of pop stars, there's a sort of need to be edgy.
Yes.
And I think 5 years ago, I would have kind of bought into that entirely. Whereas now, like I was saying earlier, slightly sort of, I don't know, we've kind of dropped that, really. It's very hard to be edgy after you go past the age of about 23 anyway. So we're sort of leaning into that, and with the whole sort of the look and the feel of Barbara and the kind of world of Barbara that my brother's done a really good job of sort of creating online with the social media pages and stuff. John's kind of quite up to embracing his sort of inner, what does he say? He's got a phrase for it that I've forgotten. But yes, we're taking it day by day and just kind of enjoying ourselves as much as we can.
It. And that comes across quite well in the music that you're writing. So what is your aspirations next for Barbara? What's coming up this year?
Well, there is the EP we're talking through at the moment, like we said earlier, is out on the 22nd of May. And that's a very exciting thing for us because it's only the second time we've released a physical thing, and it's 2 years on from the last one. So this is quite an important thing for us. And then to support that release in November, there is a tour. We're doing our first headline tour for a while. So if people go to Barbara the Band, well, if people go to barbaratheband.com, they'll see all the dates. I think there's kind of 8 or 9 shows, quite small venues. I mean, of course, much smaller venues than what we've just been playing with Paul Weller, kind of 100, 150 capacity places. But I think from what I hear, my man on the inside said tickets are selling well. And when we've played, we love playing to small rooms like that when they're full of people. I mean, you can do some of the best gigs of your life playing to 100 people in a tight, packed room because,
yes.
you can't really recreate an atmosphere like that. So the tour really in November is the next really big thing. So if people like the cut of my jib, they should look us up and get a ticket.
And that's on barbaratheband.com. They can get the tickets from
barbaratheband.com. But also, if you want to see if you just Google Barbara the Band, you'll also be able to see Barbara on Facebook and Barbara on Instagram, and we do a fair bit of stuff on there. So yeah, check that out as well.
And it's important to remember it's Barbara the Band, because when I was trying to find you on Facebook, I got all sorts of Barbaras coming up in the search.
Well, you know what, I must say, this is one of the few things that behind the scenes at Barbara HQ we've had discussions and debate over, and not everyone agrees that Barbara is the best name for a band in the age of Google, of course, because if you just type in Barbara, you don't get us, right?
No, you don't.
Because there's quite a few Barbaras. I've always thought, and here I can test this on you, I've always thought that if people are looking for a band and they search for it and the band doesn't come up, do they not then, is their next move not to put in band after the name? Because that's what I would do. I would type in Barbara Band, and if you type in Barbara Band on Google, you do get us. But then maybe I'm wrong, and people don't do that. People give up after a single search. What would you do?
I did. Well, exactly that. I searched Barbara, and I got all these wonderful Barbaras coming up. Then I searched for Barbara Music.
Okay.
And then I did the Barbara Band, and then eventually I got Barbara the Band, and it took me a little while.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, there are lots of bands. There are bands around, I know, who've chosen their name specifically so that when it's typed into Google, it's the very first thing that comes up. And I understand, I totally get that from a sort of marketing perspective. There's also a kind of soullessness to that, I suppose. So, but I don't know. Maybe it's counting against us. I don't know. But I love the name. But I mean, I'm pro Barbara. I've kind of always really liked the name. But
I think it suits you guys down to a T. I think it really does. And do you know what? If you're determined, like I was determined to find you, we found you. And then your little icon you know, you can see the two of you in that little round circle on your Facebook page.
Oh, yes.
And then you know you're there. So we better move on and have another song, hadn't we? So the next song is Waiting Outside Alone. So Henry, tell us a little bit about this song.
Okay, Waiting Outside Alone is, well, there's a couple of great things I'd like to say about this. Firstly, it's the oldest of all the Barbara songs that we play and we've recorded. So even though this is the second EP, this is actually, you can trace this probably back to about 2018. So in terms of its structure, it's a bit more conventional, but it's still the one we would open the set with because it kind of really works as a sort of announcement for us coming on stage. It's very influenced by the Kinks, the way that the plinky plonky piano and the spiky drums, it's very, very Kinks. And the last thing is that this is the song, and this is why I'll always have a fond place for this song in my heart. This is the song that Paul Weller heard that made him think, I'd like those, I'm interested in those guys, I'm gonna look them up a bit more.
Wow.
This was the song that my friend Mark shared with Paul Weller. So so this one, without this one, it's possible we wouldn't have been able to do the tour we've just done wouldn't have happened. So this one's got lots going for it.
So this song is the one that turned that key and put you on another level.
I would like, well, they were your words, not mine, but I agree with them wholeheartedly.
Let's have a listen.
Everywhere we walk about, we stop to talk about people, places and things. It's all we wish to think about. Kick up a stick about people that wait in the wings by the side of the stage, on the words of the page, on the editorial, the dictatorial view. Shouldn't the commentator's comment be true? Where did the chances, dreamers, blue-eyed schemers, men in suits and window cleaners go? Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause I'm waiting outside alone, and the rest of the world don't know that it breaks me down the way those clowns are treating me, keeping me waiting outside alone. Everywhere she goes, she says she's making this country's case and staking a well-found reputation on stiff upper lips and soldier songs. Stiff upper lips, they won't save the men in suits and badger baiters. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause I'm waiting outside alone, and the rest of the world don't know that it breaks me down the way those clowns are treating me, keeping me waiting outside. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba. Bum, 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 bum. 'Cause I'm waiting outside alone, and the rest of the world don't know that it breaks me down the way those clowns are treating me, keeping me waiting outside alone. Do I have to be on my own?
Henry, we were talking a little bit earlier about your tour. So are you in specific cities or towns in November? Where is the tour going?
Yes, we are. Now, I can look, so I should really have those right in front of me, shouldn't I, like a professional, but I don't. But if you can give me 10 seconds, I'm going to be able to. The answer is yes, we are kind of going. You know what? We decided to go to a number of the places, or close to a number of the places where we played with Paul Weller, because we thought we calculated, or the agent putting on the tour calculated that we might have made a load of new fans there. So it seemed like quite a smart thing to do. I can tell you all the places we're playing.
Yep.
Hove, which is the local for us. New Milton, Barnoldswick, Sheffield, Putney, Guildford and Hartlepool. So it's kind of all over England. There's not a Scotland date in there yet. There might be one, and people should keep an eye because there might be a Scotland date added. But like I said, it's kind of, it's dotted all round. Oh, I've forgotten what I was going to say. There you go. Sorry, like I said, small venues. Some of them are less than 100. I think one of them's already sold out. So, but you know, we kind of have, as is the case with all bands. I mean, we kind of cut our teeth playing in rooms that are for 50 people. So, you know, we love playing in rooms like that. It's so much fun.
Can I get you to add Norwich to that? Because there's some wonderful small venues in Norwich.
Oh, great.
You guys
Where in particular shall I make a note?
No, I think it's called the Waterfront in Norwich.
Okay.
I will double check that and I'll send that across to you. But the Waterfront is a lovely setting on the river. There's quite a few small bands that have played there. I don't know what their availability is like, but they really do support emerging artists.
Oh, wow. That's exactly the kind of place that we'd love to go to. So,
and there's quite a few dotted around Norwich. You'd be quite surprised. And there's quite a good music community in and around Norwich because it's by the coast. And obviously you've got Great Yarmouth and you've got Lowestoft, and there's loads of bands and venues. There's also one in Great Yarmouth called the Jube. That's another one. They are supporting emerging artists, etc. Again, not very big venues, but it just gets you into another area, doesn't it?
Totally, yeah. And I'm trying to think whether we've done anything in that part of the country yet. I mean, we did one of the Haircut 100 shows was in Ipswich. That, of course, is not Norwich, but it is broadly in the same kind of part of the world. But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks. You can put that in an email, and I will.
Also, make a note of the UEA in Norwich because that's a university campus.
Yes,
so perfect for you guys. And again, not a huge stage, but it's got I think probably the capacity might be 500-600 around. But it's brilliant because they've got a bar in, and it's very cheap to drink there because it's a student bar. But the UEA is another one. I don't know. Your agent will probably be able to tell you.
No, absolutely. Oh, great shout. Yeah.
So I'll send those across to you. Now, you're not signed by a label, are you, at the moment?
No, we've never really had any interest from a label. No, and it kind of hasn't stopped us. I mean, which in a way, it's kind of been, you know, the things that we've achieved. And we've kind of we've got a little bit lucky, but we also work quite hard on the kind of back end stuff of sending hundreds and hundreds of emails. I mean, the first support tour we did, Divine Comedy, who are Neil Hannon and the Divine Comedy are such great influences on us. And that was such an important thing for us to do. That just came from us sending an email to their agent and a very kind person at their agency, forwarding it to Neil Hannon. And Neil Hannon got in touch and said, I really like this. So you can do... I think the world's changed a little bit in that you can make some good strides nowadays in the music industry without having a big record label pumping lots of money into you. That's not me saying I would say no thank you to a record label if one would like to come and give us lots of money to make a big album. But
or to recoup some of the money you've spent already.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I wonder whether what we're very conscious of is that the kind of music we're making is not... it doesn't have a very mainstream sound in 2024. So, you know, I completely understand why record labels might be a bit wary of wanting to do stuff with us, because the sound is, as we've said already, it's kind of deliberately meant to sound like it's from 1975. Yeah. So it doesn't particularly, it's not something that bothers us really at the moment. We've kind of done okay without it.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a sound that is catching on and people are loving and enjoying it. And the more exposure that you get, the more people are going to love it. And, you know, who knows what's around the corner. So we're going to listen to another song now. Now, I did get a little bit confused when I saw the title of this song called Master Narrative.
Yeah.
So give us a clue what this one's about. What was the inspiration behind this?
Okay. Well, you know what? I must confess, this is another slightly political one. Master Narrative. Let me remind myself. It's kind of. It's okay. So it's a little bit of a cheeky. Aren't some politicians not quite what they seem to be? I mean, that's kind of the point of it, right? I mean, and again, I don't, there is a line in it where we say he isn't left, he isn't right, because I never wanted us to write political songs that were very obviously about one person or one party or one side. Yes. But equally, I don't think it's a massively controversial thing to say that some of the high-profile politicians of recent years are what's the word I'm looking for? Slightly shady, not quite what they seem. But anyway, I mean, you can tell I'm slightly I feel slightly awkward about talking about words for songs like that. The thing that I should say also,
I think your generation, it's great to hear, because we hear a lot, don't we, that nobody's allowed to express an opinion anymore, and actually an opinion or a view is just that. It doesn't mean to say that you're politically biased one way or another, but it's an expression of a moment in time, and it's what you're witnessing. It's what a lot of people are witnessing around the world. There is a lot of exposure now for people to get underneath the skin of our politicians, because they're making decisions that affect us all. So I don't think I think I get what you're trying to get across here without being political, and I think, why not? It's a view, it's an opinion. And
I'm not, and also we're not. I kind of don't like it when bands make music. I'm not someone that thinks all politicians are awful, right? Or politics in itself is sort of an inherently terrible thing. So I don't think when we do write songs like that, I don't think we come at it from a explicitly cynical perspective, because I don't know, there's something just a bit immature about that for me. But nonetheless, I still think, as you were saying there, you're well within your rights to criticise, when people are you feel like people are getting away with stuff they really shouldn't be getting away with. The other thing I should say about Master Narrative, because I've not mentioned him yet, it's the third track on this EP produced by Paul Steele, who's the producer that we work with the most. And John always says that he's kind of the sixth Barbara, in that meaning that, outside of the five of us in the group, he's just as important as all of us really, because he brings so much. He has such a unique kind of sound that he brings to our songs. He arranges a number of the parts on there as well, in terms of strings and horns and stuff like that. So I'd like to give him a shout out, because he's absolutely fantastic. He's been with us since the very beginning as well. And what did the Guardian once said, that he was something like the new Brian Wilson or something. He's very Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, in the way that he thinks about song arrangements. So we've been very, very lucky to be able to collaborate with him on 7 or 8 songs over the last couple of years. And this is one that he. Well,
again, it's all a collaborative, isn't it? You're all working together. You're all part of a team, and that team cohesively works together. So we're going to listen to Master Narrative now, and then we'll be back very shortly, because we've got a few more questions to ask Henry. So stay with us. We'll be back.
I hear him on the radio talking. I watch him on the TV news. Some people tell me he's a popular fella. Some people say they disapprove. He's a leader of men. I really want to get to know him better. master narrative. Something on which he can rely and build his life around. He took a look at religion and bits of conflicting political thinking for all it's worth. And now he's one stop on the train from his heaven on earth. From his heaven on earth. From his heaven on heaven on heaven on earth. I tell you what I think, he's really not worth much more than the price of a ticket to the circus. But I find no one likes a visit to the circus like I do. He isn't left, he isn't right. There's no one specific in my mind. He's a preacher to the choir. He's a cheater, he's a liar. And we hate him like nobody does. We love him. All he wants is a master narrative. Something on which he can rely and build his life around. He took a look at religion and bits of conflicting political thinking for all that it's worth. And now he's one stop on the train. One stop on the train. One stop on the train from his heaven on earth. Pardon me, boy. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Can you afford to board the Chattanooga choo-choo? Pardon me, boy. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Heaven on earth.
So, Henry, you and John, as brothers, obviously get on quite well. I presume, like most siblings, you probably have your moments. And you've got mum and dad who are supporting you both as well. So, we're going to listen to a track in a minute called Grandad. So, I'm intrigued. Who is Grandad? And what was this song about?
So this is, I can't, as with quite a lot of these songs, actually, it's often a small little lyrical, a couple of words together that one of the two of us has heard and jotted down. And it's that, the song sort of develops from that. And I think in this case, it was something like, depending on pensioners. I'd seen that written down somewhere and kind of thought, oh, I quite like the sort of rhyme within the line, depending on pensioners. And from that, though, there is this song which is kind of quite theatrical, which is something that John particularly likes about what Barbara's trying to do. It's kind of a dialogue, the song, between a grandson and a granddad, and it's the kind of dialogue that I'm sure millions of people will recognise, in that it's a sort of argument across the generations. Each young generation thinks that it's the greatest generation, most important generation, and I suppose the older generations probably feel that the young generations really haven't got a clue and they're naive, and so it kind of worked its way into it's a discussion or a dialogue in the song. I think the first verse is sung by the grandson, and then later on, and it's me actually, I'm singing as the granddad later on in the song.
It was almost like a role reversal. you know, the grandson was saying, "Grandad, why aren't you giving up smoking? You realise it's bad for you." And it was almost like the grandson was giving the granddad a lecture. And
Yes,
so,
which I reckon that is quite conventional. You know, a certain young people do think. I mean, we are guilty of thinking we know everything about the world, right? You know, that's kind of. But I suspect all generations have been like that. They look at the old generations and think, God, aren't they kind of out of touch and old and boring? But I think the older you get, you realise that's quite a naive view. But you know.
So I think the song is very unique in that it starts, as you say, that dialogue between sort of grandson and granddad, and then he turns the tables and kind of thinks, yeah, well, you know, and that's the beauty, I think. And it made me chuckle as I was listening to it, because it was very unique. It was very enjoyable. It was delightful to listen to that story going across. And to me, you know, that kind of and you know, Fräulein again was kind of wacky and out there, but it kind of, the whole EP blends you guys together as a whole, you know, as something very unique, which I don't think there's many out there like you.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it as much. And actually, because Grandad is kind of, many people have not heard that song yet, because it's the only song on the EP that's not had its own single release. So it's that you're one of the first people there that's said what you thought about that song. So I'm so pleased that that one's quite a memorable one and you've enjoyed that one. Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely wonderful. Well, we're running out of time with Henry. We've got so many more questions. So I think before we listen to Grandad, Henry, if you just would remind everybody where, if they want to know more about you guys, where can they go and where can they get the tickets for your tour in November? And basically just let everybody know again, for their point of view, where they can find you.
Yes, no, great, thank you. The website is barbaratheband.com. And that's really the place for the tickets if you want to come and see the band in November. And like I said, they are actually selling quite nicely. So if you do want to come and see a show and you're in one of the towns that is close, you know, or you're close by to one of the shows, I'd kind of urge people to buy them as soon as possible. We do a fairly good job on social media as well. So we're Barbara the Band on Facebook. We're Barbara the Band on Instagram. And we're also, we're called, I think we might be Barbara the Band 2 on Twitter, rather confusingly, because I think someone had got in and stolen the first Barbara the Band. But people should have a look, because the last post we did on these platforms was the closest we ever got going viral, and because it was a clip of Paul Weller introducing us backstage. Because he very kindly said, I mean, he was kind of wandering around backstage. We were about to go on and play our set, and he said, I'll do, because John normally introduces us off stage with a microphone and we run on, and Paul Weller just said, I'll do it for you. And so we've got someone to film it. So if people want to see a 30-second clip with Paul Weller introducing us before we run on stage, then they can find that on all of those social platforms.
What a lovely moment. What a lovely moment to capture and to keep.
Yeah, no, and I've watched it many, many times back.
Pinching yourself, I imagine. Yeah, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, please say hello to John for us, won't you? And also to Paul, and also to Mum and Dad. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Henry. We're going to play out to Grandad. So I wish you lots of success with this EP, and I wish you lots of success on the tour as well. And I will send over those venues for you to have a look at.
Oh, please do, yeah. That was brilliant fun. That was lots of fun. I haven't done that before, talked through song by song, so that was great. Thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. Lots of luck, Henry.
Which way do you vote, Grandad? Why do you still smoke, Grandad? Haven't you heard of the dangers involved? It isn't clever or bold to disregard all that you see. Grandad, please listen to me. Grandad, mine's a one-off generation. We've answered the call of civilizations. Yes, I have to confess, I'm probably the best place to be running the show. And unless you're just as modern as me, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I know you won't. Quite I say, and it's so, so tragic, tragic. I guess we depend on the pensioners, don't we? Especially the cruel, the most bitter and loneliest, out of touch auntie, out of touch auntie. Nosy OAP, nosy OAP. There's only a moment to go till you're old, and you know you're as twisted and me as a crusty old hussy like me. Just listen to this, grandson, stop taking the piss. Grandson, mine is the true generation, and all of your fancy Dan ideas are causing me such frustration. Fill me with indignation, and it's so, so tragic, tragic. I guess we depend on the pensioners, don't we? Especially the cruel, the most bitter and loneliest, out of touch auntie, out of touch auntie. Nosy OAP, nosy OAP. It's only a moment to go till you're old, and you know you're as twisted and mean as a crusty